Marvelous day, world. Hopefully everybody is super great and getting better. Wishing you all the very best with the start of your week. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the Corey Webster Experience. I am your host, Corey Webster. I am C-Web. And today we're going to unpack some hot topics going across the world. We got the women's NCAA championship is in. Go Huskies. We're going to unpack some transfer portal things that's going on. And what about these gestures? You know, you see people, you know, lining it up. You see people throwing up, you know. And when I'm talking about gestures, I'm talking about celebrations in sports. So we're going to dive right in. And what do you think about some of these gestures? You see some of your favorite sports athletes throw up after they do something great, you know what I mean? Score a touchdown, score a goal, hit a three-pointer, and they, you know, all are doing something with their fingers. What do you think about these celebrations?
I mean, I think it's nice. They work hard, they prepared, so they want to do something just like, hey, I did this to solidify, you know, I'm excited for my hard work.
Yeah, I think it's cool when it when you have, you know, gestures and things like that. I'll say this, we started a little thing when I was celebrating. I can't remember what year, but I think it was the 07 Super Bowl run, Super Bowl 42 run. And New York owned, it was Jim Jones, Dipset. They came out with the song Ballin'. And, you know, he actually remixed it and made a Giants version of the song, if you go look it up, right? So we just took it to a whole different level, you know what I mean? We was on the field every time somebody made a play. It doesn't matter if you was 30, 40 yards away. We just hit this little gesture like, ballin'. And you saw Jim Jones, all those guys having fun in the video. And we didn't think nothing of it. Now, to be totally honest, the NFL came down on us. Because at that time, celebrating, now it's crazy to think about it, right? But it just shows you how things evolve and change with time, right? At that time, they didn't want all of the players celebrating together. And you look at me like it's the ultimate team sport. And players are celebrating together, and people are going to get on them about that. Like, you know, in a world where individualist is like way up there, these guys are celebrating together and you're getting on them. Because at the time, I think the rule was you can't have a choreograph, so to speak, celebration. You know, it has to be just kind of spontaneous. So us, we was excited for each other. You know, we gelling together. You know what I mean? And you know, us throwing up the ballin' sign. It was, guys coming off the sideline doing it, but we was happy for each other. Like we was genuinely happy that OC made a play, or that, you know, Aaron Ross, and we got Strahan involvement with AP, you know, and so they was like, hey, all of you cannot do it at the same time. So it was a habit that because we just happy we was doing it in practice, you know what I mean? So we had to remember, hey, just the person that made the play could do it. And they told us that. So, all right, it was like an adjustment, but, you know, we still enjoyed it. But nowadays, we seeing, you know, guys make a three-pointer and they throwing up different gestures. Now, I'll say this, too. We had a guy from another country on our team, and he made a play, and he threw his fingers up around his eye. And somebody let him know that, hey, that's a gang gesture. He had no idea what that was, you know what I mean? He was just doing like, I see you, you know what I mean, so to speak. Like, you know how we used to do the thing like this, like binoculars, like I see you. Somebody make a good pass in basketball, a good pass from a quarterback, and they put up the, you know, like I see you type thing. So he did it with one hand, and he meant nothing about it, but somebody educated him on it. That's a gang sign, you know what I mean? You know, some certain gangs recognize that sign as their gesture, right? So, once you're aware of something, he removed it, stopped doing it, you know what I'm saying? Because he didn't want to, it wasn't something negative that he was looking to do, it wasn't something that he was a part of and something that he was trying to push, right? So then you see other guys in certain leagues throwing up gestures when it comes to fraternities and things of that nature. You didn't see guys make a play and, you know, get up, throwing up certain fraternities and celebrating in that way, right? And it's a bit of an individual thing, but I think we have to be conscious and be aware of the times that we're living in now. I think it was a great job of being aware by Austin Rivers. That's not Austin Rivers. Guy that plays for the Lakers.
AR.
Yeah, but he don't want to be called AR.
know.
His number is 15. Look up his name. I'm sorry, because I don't want to get this wrong. But it's Austin Rivers, I think, like this. But I don't this. Anyway, I'll tell you the story. He didn't want to be called AR-15. He said because that's a gun name. Everybody know that's a popular assault rifle name. So he didn't want to be called that, especially at the time. Austin Reeves. Especially at the time when people was calling it to him. I think it was after one of these mass shootings that was going on. So I think that was a great job of him being aware of, this is a delicate situation right now, you know what I mean? Whereas I know that those are my initials and that's my number. That's a fact, right? AR-15. That's just what it is. But I don't think that's something to be celebrating right now at the time. Now, maybe later on down the line, once we had a different space in the world, that may be something that we could come back to. And because of your initials, you know what I mean? I remember when people was like fussing with me, I didn't fuss back. So when people were just telling me, you're not the real C-Web, my sister is C-Web, you know what I mean? My oldest sister is C-Web, my younger sister is C-Web. That's something that they've been because that's their initials. They was referring to Chris Webber is the real C-Web, and I'm happy for Chris Webber. I'm a fan of Chris Webber and all, but I can't change my initials. My name is Corey Webster, so I'm always C-Web, you know what I mean? And if you understand nicknames, it's normally a shortened version of your name. I've been C-Web, I've been Webby, I've been just Web. Some people have, like CW, they abbreviate the CW, they call it C-Dub, you know what I mean? So, I just thought it was a beautiful job of him being aware of the situation and the times, and him recognizing and showing sympathy and having compassion for those times and not wanting to be called that and just addressing it, you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, a nickname gonna stick, whether you want it or not. So, getting to the time that we're in right now, and people are giving Ja Morant the pushback of the gestures that he's making, maybe make it toward the opposing team bench. I just think that if I'm a big brother to Ja, if I'm a teammate of Ja, I have sons. If I'm a son and have a father, if I'm a father and my son is, wanting to understand those things, what I would say is you have to be aware of the time. Self-awareness is everything, right? We know you done had 2 incidents where guns have played a role in, right? I'm gonna go even just a tad bit further of understanding not only the time and being aware of where you're at. You're in Memphis. Memphis is one of the cities has been very deadly and has been, very big on gun violence and violence upon, people that look like me and Ja. Not to say that we don't want to, put out a great example for everybody, right? But individuals in Memphis, individuals in Baton Rouge, New Orleans, we have to be mindful of the gestures that we're promoting, you know what I mean? Like, let's find us another celebration, you know what I mean? Because we don't want to promote the negativity of what people are actually living and going through every day, right? Just by us wanting to be who we want to be, or us just wanting to do what we want to do, right? I think it comes with a level of responsibility when we have a platform. So I just did the nutshell. I would tell any of those players, man, celebrate, have fun with your team. Now it's okay for the whole team after somebody makes a play to run to the end zone and celebrate together. That's beautiful. So that shows a level of how things are evolving. But I would say from the player's perspective, it's okay to be trendy. It's okay to be, in with the new times, but also be aware of what's going on. And right now, gun violence is at an all-time high. So us making a gesture of a gun toward anyone right now, it should be the last thing that we want to do. You know what I mean? I've always had guns. My dad hunt, things like that. And they always told me it didn't matter what we had, whether it was a gun in my hand, whether it was a water gun, whether it was a fake gun, always treat that gun like it's a loaded gun. So fingers or not, I wouldn't be twisted and pointing at anyone, you know what I'm saying? So just be mindful of that, fellas. Y'all can do whatever you want, yes, but also be mindful that, the world is a place where it emulates what we have going on. And if you somebody popular has a platform, be responsible with your platform. Anything else? Did you pick the Huskies? I don't think you picked the Huskies.
I can't remember.
You can't remember. That's definitely what a person would say that didn't pick the Huskies. I can't remember because if you had picked them, you would remember.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, I think I thought the Husky was favored. I thought they was motivated. I mean, it wasn't favored by the masses, but I thought they was favored because they wasn't the number one seed. You picked 4 other teams to be the number one seed. You also had UCLA being the overall number one seed. And I just think that they felt a little disrespected by that. I also think that because of how this team, the nucleus of this team, Paige missed significant time with injury. Fudd, I always mess up her name.
Ozzie
Fudd missed significant time, man. They talked about her at one point in time, she hadn't played in 1,000 plus games. Only played one game, as a sophomore, injured herself. She missed time this year. So I just think they were motivated to be back to the Huskies that when they were recruited to come here to play ball, they wanted to get back to that. And I think right now, with Ozzie, with Strong, I think they're back to title town. They title town. They not only contenders, but the future's looking bright. I know Geno won his first as 71-year-old man, as a 71-year-old coach. Nobody's ever done that before. Collectively had won his 12th title. That's awesome. I think that even with this, I don't think this changed anything. I think he's always been one of the top coaches in sports. Some people may want to argue that he is the best coach in sports. I would argue, I'd never like to compare individuals. I would say he's right up there with, Belichick, Nick Saban, John Wooden, Geno. And if you put in tiers or whatever, I think Pat Summitt is up there. The next coaches to have 8, even in they come underneath. I think, maybe a Krzyzewski, and it's different, apples to apples, orange to orange. I know, when you have, even though they have to compete, you have to develop those individuals. It's different all across, football, recruiting, recruiting women's basketball, men's basketball, the one and done. So there's a lot of things that go into play there now, Those things that, it was simple, right? You knew that when you recruited a young lady from high school to come play college ball, that they was going to be there for 3+ years. No less. I think, with men's basketball, the one and done, and they had some times in there where guys can go straight from high school to pro. So that's another layer of trying to recruit and keep a guy at your university that's going to be difficult. And I think that's why we haven't seen anybody from that side, meaning the men's league, go up there and compete against John Wooden, because John Wooden at that time, he had guys staying there 3 to 4 years, so he was it was a little easy, not easier. You knew what was going to be there. You knew that you was going to have a guy for 3+ years in your system, in your program, that was going to be developed and become a better version of themselves. Bless you. So I'm not going to compare them. I think, yes, they are the greatest, but I think it's a group of them. And you might have something or someone else that you want to put on that list, I will put maybe Phil Jackson. I will put Belichick. I will put Wooden. I'll put Nick Saban, Geno, and you may want to add. I always say, hey, let's make a discussion. If I left out anybody that you felt that is worthy to be on that greatest coach, greatest coach in sports list, put them in there, let your voice be heard. So what do you think about the Huskies? How they overcome this season? How they overcome being the number 2 seed and beating, I think, 2 number 1 seeds to get their 12th national championship?
It definitely showed they deserved to be there. This victory ended a 9-year title drought for UConn. So it definitely showcased their resilience and hard work, over this past season, despite having the injuries the previous years.
Yeah, I think so. Coach Geno talked about that. He said it's a special one. He said not that you want to put one above others. He said, but just what they had to go through. When you have to overcome a little more adversity, it makes it a little special. You know what I mean? And not that it's more special than the others, but that adversity, it creates character. It creates a legacy that other people can learn from and feed off of. And I don't want to dip too far into another team while we praising UConn, but we hear a lot in our house. Our boy Trey, he loves Juju, so I think Juju is inspired in this moment where it was shocking to her. She went down on a play where she tore her ACL. She's going to be done for a lot of time, and she's going to need inspiration and motivation to climb back up that. So she get to look at a Paige Becker. She get to look at a Fudd. Come on, give me her name again. Ozzy Fudd. To some individuals, and there's others out there, but some individuals that have overcome adversity, had overcome some setback as far as injuries, and was able to make it back to Titletown. So shout out to UConn Huskies. Y'all did y'all thing. I think Paige kind of cemented herself in the Mount Rushmore of UConn's women basketball, and with Maya Moore, Taurasi, Stewart, I think she's right up there with them when it comes to the stats, the awards, the things that she put in that she has accomplished at UConn. I think sealing it off with a national championship is like that cherry on top of the icing of the cake. So shout out to her as well. But I think she's leaving UConn in great hands as well. With Ozzy's going to still be there. They're going to recruit well. They're going to have Coach Geno there developing them as long as he decides and he wants to develop them until he decides to walk away from the game. But strong. I think they got a great nucleus to continue to build from and to build around. And never know. You never know. UConn's men's went back to back a year ago. They're not going to be playing for it this year, but they had a nice run this year as well. They couldn't three-peat, but that doesn't diminish anything that they accomplished this year. So it's safe to say UConn is, kind of the heart and soul of basketball in NCAA for the last couple of years, with the women bringing back to the championship. Anything about the South Carolina Gamecocks? What's next for them? They lost to a well-coached, a well-developed, a well-armed machine in the UConn Huskies. How do you think the South Carolina Gamecocks bounce back? They are 0-2 against Geno. So they've been dominating pretty much a lot of the teams that they've been playing, but they haven't been dominating UConn. I'm going to say this. It's different styles of basketball. They're both well-coached teams. I think UConn is, from what we saw, they are efficient at a level that's awing. It's like, wow, man, look how efficient they are. And what I mean by that, everybody's prepared. I think they have a motto. We used to have a coach that always said, I think it was Coach Saban, everyone has to prepare as a starter. Not only to make up for someone, that's not it. Some people have the next person up mentality. That's cool. But everybody has to prepare as a starter. And what that does is when your number is called, when you have prepared as a starter, you're going to be ready. Now, that doesn't mean somebody has to go down for your number to be called. What that means is when you're the fourth option of a play that we're running, when your opportunity arises, you are ready and you take full advantage of that opportunity. Sometimes, people can't take advantage of that moment and it's too big for them. Hey, look, we need you to look. They're going to double team Paige, right? Everybody's looking for Strong to get the ball, okay? So we're going to get it into Chin. You're going to dribble. We're going to use Page and Strong as decoys, right? When that double come to you, Strong, you're going to kick it to this person, and then Ozzy is open for the backdoor cut. Or vice versa, we're going to have Ozzy, Strong, and Page. You're going to be decoys. And those other two players know how to execute the play just as any of the others. And then that defense focuses on who? Those three players, Strong, Ozzy, and they forget the fourth option or the fifth option. But that fourth and fifth option has prepared as a starter, and they're ready for their moment, and they execute the play seamlessly. So that's what I mean. I don't think every team has that level of attention to detail when it comes to being efficient. And I think that's what UConn, that's what, I know it didn't look like that at the end of the game. We showed some signs of immaturity, but that's what Duke had for the most of this season. So how did the Gamecock go? I know you got some questions. What did they do?
Yes. All right. So, well, we know that the Gamecock has definitely had 3 national championships. They were looking to go, back to back.
Back to back.
Right. And that would have been nice.
Yes.
But they finished with championship wins in 2017, 2022, and 2024.
Do you have an answer for this? What emotional toll does it take to lose on this stage? And how do players find motivation to overcome and get back to the strength that they had just a year ago?
Emotionally, you would have to be, open to seeking counsel first, because there's a lot of pressure. Millions of eyes are on you, whether they're in the arena and on the TV. I mean, all the social media platform sites now. But it's a lot. It's a lot because they are still young adults that get a lot of slack and a lot of negativity thrown their way. And I don't think it's fair, because some of the people who talks about them negatively, they probably can't dribble a basketball. All right.
Kim Mookie had a question for the guy that asked. I know this feels terrible, right? How many have you won? So it's pretty good, right? Yeah, but yes.
But it's it's not fair. They're trying their best. They made it to this point because they've given it their all. So give them some grace, some empathy that what, this right here just wasn't their time, and hey, you can come back, try it again. But I know they're giving it their all. They're trying their best, and just don't be so critical.
Yeah. I know one of the first things people think of, they be like, what does a coach go in the locker room and say to their team? Mm-hmm. And I haven't lost, a national championship game. I played one, but just any tough game that we have ever had that was, kind of emotional letdown, whether it was a rival game, because all games are big, and we treat them all as such, right? You can't duplicate the, the championship, all those moments, but I think, letting them know that this one loss doesn't define you. It isn't, going to be the end all and be all. You will still go on to do, tremendous things, and it may hurt right now, but that's just because you care. That because you put so much into it, the level of preparation, the sacrifices that you have made thus far, it matters to you. And you don't never want to lose that feeling of something matters to you, that you go out and you put your all into it. And if you come up short, it's still success inside of that. You know what I mean? The world may want to condemn because, they only there for that moment. You know what I mean? That moment of 2 or 3 hours watching you, the confetti fall, the other team win, and to try to belittle you. But this moment, these memories that you have made with this group of individual, that you're going to be at their wedding, you're going to be at the christening of their kids, will last forever. And you want those individuals to be around forever because of those memories and that blood, sweat, togetherness that you have built together. So I think it's easy for someone of her caliber to be able to talk about that because she played it. She's won on the highest level, USA Olympics team, coach USA Olympics team, and what she have done with the South Carolina Gamecocks. I think if I have to put words in her mouth, that would be sort of the message that she gives to her team. And to the young girls that's coming behind, some people are going off. If you don't want to have this feeling, how do we start working now? What do we need to work on so we don't have this feeling again? What can you pull out of this situation as far as motivation, inspiration, that we change going forward before we get to this point? So what do we do in the off season? What does that extra inch look like? What does us getting in the study hall, the classroom, eating, the dining room, how does that look so we can get the edge, the competitive edge, and not have this feeling next year? You know what I'm saying? So that's, kind of the message that you give to them.
All right. And as far as South Carolina, of the 11 players on this year's roster, 6 are underclassmen. Yeah. 10 have at least one remaining year of eligibility, and only one player is confirmed to be leaving.
See? So I didn't know that, you know what I mean? But so you bring back the nucleus of your team, and that nucleus of your team is motivated to get back to Titletown, you know what I mean? To finish what we started, you know what I mean? And I'm going to assume here that the person that's leaving has a national championship. So you want to make sure that you send this upcoming senior class out with a national championship because, South Carolina has been very successful over the last few years with Dawn Staley as the leader. So, that's a motivational tool. The young lady that you're bringing in, that you're recruiting, you want them to be, hey, we want to do something special. You want to leave a legacy here. You know what I mean? We building something here that's going to outlive us. So, that's just something great. Now going to the winning locker room, we already answered the question, is Geno the greatest coach in sports? I think we kind of answered that, you know what I mean? What other question you have?
How does it feel to witness UConn's win their 12th national title? What does that moment mean? I
think, in modern time, we saw John Wooden do this. We didn't see John Wooden do this. We heard of John Wooden doing this. So this is sort of what's happening now. You know what I mean? The dominance that he's have, the development that he's have. I think all coaches, all players should be looking in to see, oh, man, this is the level of commitment. The things that he do. I don't know if he does what they call those coaching seminars or anything like that, but everybody should be signing up to try to get a piece of, the mindset that it takes. How, we had Mamba mentality. We have, individuals that have these processes of how they do things. So I think, now that if you're a young player, you didn't know that Geno was what he was, I don't care what male or female, you can learn from what, this leader is doing to his program and how he's, changing basketball, man. They're not just playing any type of basketball. He's teaching individuals how to play the game. I don't want to say it's a right or wrong way, but how to play the game in an efficient way, how to read and react, how to make adjustments on the fly, how to develop character and integrity amongst these young ladies. And, he's building individuals to be greater for success later. So I think we're witnessing all of this. And this year, winning this 12-1 in the social media, internet era, everybody can learn something from it and know who his name is and go do your research to see, where he came from, how did he go about doing it, so we can take some of that with us as if you work with young individuals or, you want to add something to your life, because it takes a lot of commitment, dedication, perseverance, and a lot of those big words, responsibility, accountability, that sometimes we don't like to, address or to be hit with. But I think this is a great time right now to tap back into some of those things.
Nice. Now, remember, WNBA draft is next week.
Yep. Paige Becker probably going to be number 1 draft pick.
So, Paige, you got a week to celebrate.
That's it. Yeah. That's the thing about it.
The draft is Monday, April 14th.
She gets no celebration. Today, she might relax a little bit. She back in the gym working out, getting prepared for these drafts. You know what I mean? I don't think too much have to change. You know what I mean? But she has to be in the gym. No, that's the difference. You know what I mean? She's not, football or others, you may win and get a little bit of celebration time, a week or two. For them, it's year round. She right back into it. You know what I mean? She's celebrating as she prepared for the WNBA draft. You know what I mean? And, I'm going to use it as a positive thing. I'm going to say it's great because she don't have to get back into shape. You know what I mean? She can rehab. I like to call it rehab and prehab kind of together. Continue on the journey where she's been. When you playing out there, you're never 100%. You know what I mean? So she can rehab those things as well as prehab the things that she needs to prehab as far as range of motions. And, because she had a significant knee injury, she can continue to prehab those things and make them stronger as she go through the process. Because this year right here is going to be like all crushed together. Her last year of college and her first year of, WNBA. So I want her to be at her best. I'm not just talking about, when it comes to basketball wise, but physically. So she don't have any setbacks when it comes to injuries. So, that's going to be fun. You know what I mean? It's going to be real fun. We saw, Angel Reese and Clark, hit it running and, was rookie of the years and, 1 and 2 in that race. So, but they both ended healthy. You know what I mean? I just want to, end healthy and have a great year.
Yes. So let's go on to discuss the transfer portal. I know something.
It's a thing.
Yes, it is.
Yep. I think I read a report that says almost 2,000 plus athletes in the transfer portal. And I'm not mad at it. You know what I mean? It's just something that you're going to have to continue to get used to. And I'm thinking that the NCAA going to continue to put guidelines in it as we learn and start to understand the transfer portal. I would say this. I think the portal shouldn't open up until the championship games are done. That's my suggestion. That's for all sports. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care what we playing, baseball, softball. It doesn't matter what you're playing, basketball, football. Once the championship is over, what is played on Sunday, transfer portal for that sport should open up Monday. Right? You know what I mean? I don't think we should, because potentially we're kind of punishing the people that go deep into the tournaments. Because everybody else get to get a jump on the transfer portal. So I think it should open up after. That's my one thing. Just because we know that now, you know what I mean? I saw, reports that people still had a game, but they was already entering their name in the transfer portal. I don't think we need that distraction in sports like that, you know what I mean? And people grabbing headlines when it comes to the transfer portal. I think we should, respect the game. All focus is on the team that's playing right now and their coaches and their players, and everybody else got to respect it. Let's go. Top guard. Florida State Seminoles have their top guard. She just averaged 23.5 points a game, and I think she's going to be looking to get to Titletown. I think she's going to be looking for somebody that can use her services, but not only to continue to develop so she can, potentially be a high WNBA draft pick, but so she can win a title next year. So it's going to be interesting to see where she goes. Some of the people that the young lady from Notre Dame, Olivia Miles, I thought she may had foregone her last season to go to the WNBA because they have being a projected top 10 pick. So it's just interesting to see how transfer portal and NIL is working together. And I think that's going to be a classic case of it, because potentially she's saying that I can go to maybe a Power 5 school, potentially continue to develop my talent, as well as win a national championship, as well as get more NIL dollars or more looks or more eyes upon me in this year before I go to the WNBA. So that's a lot of improvement, improving my draft status, improving my game, but also improving my bank account. And I'm not sure it's all about the money, but that's just what I see as far as, her saying, you know what, I'm going to forego the draft. I'm also enter my name in the transfer portal. And I'm going to go to a different university. So it'd be interesting to see. But there's a lot of people that's in there. A couple of surprises to me is, I would say Jada Williams. The young lady from, I potentially thought she had committed to UCLA. I thought that was a better fit for her. As well as she went to Arizona. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. They have a player coach there that's look like she's in tune with him. But then the coach came out and said she's no longer going to, because it's a thing now, right? Because transfer portal is here. She spoke out after Jada decided to transfer. She said, or insinuated, where she didn't take maybe a senior guard from the transfer portal because she had a younger guard and looking to develop her play. She said, well, I'm not going to do that no more because these younger guards leave. They enter the transfer portal. So I just wanted the players to understand what's happening in real time on how coaches are learning, universities are learning, programs are learning how to navigate this transfer portal thing as well. So with Jada Williams transferring from
Arizona,
and potential landing spot for her is
Iowa State,
the Cyclones, right? And she spoke on it being closer to her hometown. I think she's originally from Kansas, so she's more to the Midwest from the West. So some people get homesick. I haven't seen it before, so but just navigating it. Another one I thought that was very big, LSU. Her name is Mariah Smith.
Yeah.
I thought that was a surprise to me. I thought she helped them win a championship as a freshman. She didn't play a whole lot of time, significant time, but she was a part of the team as a freshman that won that national championship, right? In Coach Mulkey's third year. Giving Reese some breaks here and there, right? And then the following season she missed due to injury. But then I think she came back this year and she pretty solid. I thought she was, developing and moving along well. And now she's put her name in the transfer portal. So that's interesting to me because I don't know, I know I'm seeing a trend here when it comes to Coach Mulkey. I'm seeing a trend. I don't know if I'm liking it. I'm not sure how well she's developing the young talent. I know we're getting a lot of talent from the transfer portal. And when I say young talent, I'm talking about all of them. Flau'jae Game, to me, that was Flau'jae Game all along. I don't see no development into a game. She been a walking bucket. She been athletic. You know what I'm saying? When I look for a development piece from a player, it doesn't matter what sports they're playing, I'm looking, how did they get better from when they arrive on campus with you? I don't think developing what they already had and now they're just scoring points doing what they already done. I want to see other layers of their game. That's, to me, is true development, where a player I hate to keep using it, Juju had some issues going left last year, where teams forced her left. And they can potentially get her to turn over the ball doing it. This year, I don't know if she had surgery on her hand in the offseason, but she had her hand taped up. You saw in some training videos where she worked the mess out of that left. Now, I don't know because the injury that allowed her the space and the opportunity to work the left hand. But when she came back this year, she had no problem going to her left. That's what I call development. You know, I don't call development, hey, you already did that well, and now you're just doing it at another level well. That's what you've been doing. Same thing when I see, I can't think of her name, but I always call her last name Williams for LSU. She a walking bucket. She can shoot the three, one dribble, pull up, jab step. She's been doing that. You know what I mean? She was, you know, the Gatorade Player of the Year from Louisiana. That's been her game. So when I see her only doing that, I'm like, where's the development in that? Like, where's the next layer to her game? You know what I mean? What's the next part of it? You know what I mean? You can't take credit for developing what she already had been doing. So I don't know. It's kind of the same I'm feeling with LSU, what I used to feel with Coach Les Miles or Coach Orgeron. Yeah, we're doing a great job of recruiting and getting these fine gentlemen and women and athletes on campus, but what are we doing to develop them further, to enhance their talent that they come here with or their skill that they come here with? What are we doing? So that's what I'm seeing right now. And, you know, to see this young lady right here leave after I thought she was trajectory on the up and up is a bit alarming to me, to say the least. And I'll say too, Paul, if I'm saying her name right, excuse me, because I thought she did a great job of being a defensive type of person when they won the championship. And then she also, I thought she had the opportunity to maybe start at guard, but then Van Lit transferred to LSU. And I'm like, okay, well, this is going to be cool because they, you know, looked like they was backing up each other. And when Van Lit didn't do something right, you could see them two was, you know, coming in the game for each other. And then when Van Lit transferred, I thought, man, okay, maybe, you know, she'd get another opportunity to step up in that role. And that just didn't happen, you know what I mean? And it's not like we had anyone that dominated and just fulfilled that role that we can build from. So I'm kind of lacking, like, what are we doing to develop these athletes? You know what I mean? Are we doing anything? Because we have a lot of talent and skill there, but what are we doing to enhance that skill and talent? Kind of, hey, look, remember, Joe Burrow, he came from Ohio State. Menberg, he came from Georgia. Mm-hmm. Jaden Daniels, he came from Arizona State. So, you know, I like the transfer portal, but we also have to be very mindful to be developing the talent that we have on campus. So we can have a great balance of, okay, yeah, we got that player over here, but our talent is still getting better. So when that player comes here, then we're able to take off and, you know, go after some championship things. You know, we get to add pieces and components to our current develop program that we have here that's going to enhance it, not just keep it afloat. You know what I mean? So, you know, I think people are going to be looking right now, you know what I mean? Because you got, it's one thing about competitors. You have, you know, South Carolina over there just dominating, right? You got Texas that's coming in looking like, okay, you know, and LSU, you know, under some, I think, you know, the queen that we had there, Coach Sue Gunner, you know, even though she hadn't won a national championship, but they was always at the top competing. You know, I think it's time for us to, you know, we want to be in that conversation of not only we just winning here and there, you know, we want to compete, you know, and be talked about in Titletown. You know what I mean? So transfer portal going to be interesting to see where everybody lands, to see if everybody have put their name in it, because you never know. Will they have a surprise person that enters the transfer portal? Do you already have that person? Like, you're like, man, I ain't never thought that person would be in the portal. You know, like I said, always comment in. Let us know who your surprise person that's entered the portal. You got one?
I'm thinking the young lady from LSU.
Yeah, I thought she young. And I'm guessing she's a sophomore because I think she redshirted last year. She had a medical redshirt with the injury that she had last year. So, a game away from the Final Four. You're losing one of your front court mate because Moreau, she's going to go to the draft.
Okay.
So you would think that, okay, this is my time to, you know what I mean? I'm going to be a junior. I can become that double-double young lady. We got Flage coming back. We have, the transfer portal still open, so I don't want to commit to, I'm assuming that everything stays the same as we are speaking right now. Williams and Johnson will be back next year. I'm going to also think that they're going to go in the portal and start looking for, athletes to target. I know LSU going to have they done built that, the checkbook. They done built the want to come here and be a title with the Angel Reese and what they did, Alexis Morris, what they did when they came here from other universities. I forget the other young lady too, because it was a third person that was a significant piece to recruiting Angel Reese because she was already here. She transferred first. And she didn't get kicked off the team. I forget her name. God, I forget her name. I'm sorry, young lady. I forget. But anyway, it'd be interesting to see, what pieces they put together so they can go on another run. Excuse me. Anything else? Are we going to talk about the Wild Wild West in the NBA? Don't look right now. The Los Angeles Lakers is sitting in the third position.
I think that's a good spot.
With a big win over Oklahoma, who's been the best team in all of the NBA. Beat them by, I think, 26.
I think so.
Potentially, we could have a great first round of the NBA playoffs. It's last week. Potentially, Los Angeles versus Golden State Warriors. LeBron versus Steph Curry, Luka versus, Draymond, Jimmy Butler, JJ Redick versus Steve Kerr. Can you see it now?
I definitely can.
Hey, well, only time will tell. Anything else? You gonna pick somebody?
No, I will not.
Come on, we gotta pick. Houston, Florida.
I'm gonna go with Houston.
Going with the defense.
Yes.
Well, only time will tell. Hey, thanks for joining. Thanks for locking in. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell, subscribe, beat the like button, beat the like button up. Make sure that our algorithm is algorithming. We're not trying to go viral for all the wrong reasons. We're just trying to share the perspective on sports that maybe take you behind the scenes. So thanks for tuning in. And as always, stay great.